Greetings and salutations, everybody on YouTube. I'm going to do a part 2 to role-playing Psionics because I realized I only covered basically two of the three ways you can do descriptions on Psionics. One was from the attackers, i.e. the monster's point of view, and then just kind of narrate that out, and then everybody knows what's going on. Another was from the victim's point of view. Again, you narrate that out. Everybody knows what's going on. The other is witness's point of view. So this one can be quite fun. Again, you don't say what's going on. So I'm going to try to do my best to do an example. The party is deep in the Karen Moor, a tomb that has a labyrinth of passageways underneath it. Darkness engulfs them. The party is moving along. In the front is Simple Simon, the fighter, and Tiny Tim, the torchbearer. You can't quite make out what Simple Simon sees. You hear him say, "Who goes there?" Then you see Tiny Tim grab his head like this, scream, and he drops the torch at the same time, and darkness engulfs them. You hear Tiny Tim gurgle, and a thump. But you haven't seen what they saw. Next, in the darkness, because now you can't see anything, something whizzes by, roll the dice, you, Mariel, knocking you slightly over, but hitting you, Clive. You let out a gasp, and that's the last anybody hears, except for the thumps behind them. Party, what do you do? Now, the party doesn't know what's really happened. Clive's going to ask, well, what happened to me? And I'm going to be saying, Clive, you just have to be quiet over there. Unfortunately, nobody knows what's happened to you, including you. They're going to have to get light going. They have no idea what has attacked them. Simple Simon's down. Tiny Tim's down. They don't know if they're dead or alive. And so everybody else in the party is going to be scrambling, trying to figure out, and they're going to have a lot of questions. Now, in this, you can roll dice. You probably should have rolled some dice. You want to speed up the whole process by knowing what dice you're going to need to roll and rolling as many of them as once as you can. So you don't just roll like initiative. Especially, you don't have to roll for initiative, especially if you know it's going to be a surprise attack and there's really nothing they can do. I know that bothers some people, but sometimes, unless there's a really good chance that they're going to perceive. Now, in this example, Simple Simon did perceive something. So it would have been an initiative roll or a perception roll of some sort, but some kind of roll that Tiny Tim and Simple Simon would have been in the position to notice something. All right? Only those two, because everyone else is back too far. Now, you roll those. You roll any anticipated damage. You roll the to hit dice. You do all of that at once. That's right. You assume the monster's going to hit, but if he doesn't, it's okay. And if you roll damage dice that you didn't need to roll, it's okay. You do that way because then it speeds up everything. Okay, so that was like a darkness example. You could also do a really cool killer one out in the wilderness. But I'm going to do two examples, keep the video short. The other one is going to be in perfect lighting, or as near perfect as you can imagine. So the party is currently at a tavern, the Leaky Cauldron. And so they're at the Leaky Cauldron, and they're doing the things party members do. They're buying a meal, They're getting their drinks. They're maybe playing some bones with another patron and trying to make an extra gold piece, or playing cards. They're checking out the room, scoping for people they might want to go talk to. They're looking at the tables. Is there any interesting things? They've already read any message boards, and so they're trying to find out more information. And they're talking to the tavern wenches, and they're watching the tavern owner's kids do various chores, and there's a local musician playing, along with some of the local workers, singing songs and having a good time. The bar owner basically is doing his thing behind the bar. Players, like I said, they're talking to different people, and maybe they're together, maybe they're spread out. It doesn't really matter. But you've already described everyone who's in the tavern, and there's plenty of lighting. The fire's going, and in one corner near the fire is a fellow with his clay pipe, and he's bundled up in his cloak. Looks like he's a little cold. That's why he's at the fire. He's got a hot drink, and he's got some kind of hot gruel or something, and he's over there just doing his thing. And the tavern wench is walking through. Everybody's having a good time. Maybe someone's talking to the bartender. I've heard that a rumor. I've heard that there's a tomb somewhere in the hills to the east. And the tavern, oh yes, many people go out there, and but few come back, and those who do never have found anything. The hills have been dug up, and no one's ever found anything. Those that come back, though, many don't. Oh, why do you think that? So they're having this conversation, and all of a sudden, right in the middle of the conversation, so you're the dungeon master, so it would go like this. Well, I think maybe there be slavers. Suddenly! So you want to break into another conversation. So if you can do a funny voice, do a funny voice. And then break into the suddenly. All right. The guy in the corner, the guy with the hot drink that I told you guys about earlier, and everybody goes, yeah, the guy in the corner. He lets out a scream, ah! And he drops everything, and he grabs, over here. And suddenly you see blood. And then he lets out another scream, ah! And he goes over here, and you see blood. And now he's fallen on the ground, and there's another scream, ah! And blood, and he's thrashing around the floor, and there's blood coming out of him. And he stops moving, and the blood is now just pooling out around him. The tavern ladies, they've dropped everything. They're screaming, ah! Curled. The hired bodyguard at the door has just stepped in front of the door, and he's not going to let anybody pass now. He's like a big mean half orc or something, right? And now nobody can get in or out of the leaky cauldron. But something has happened. Welcome to murder at the leaky cauldron. So, describing something like that, and they have no clue what's going on. They're going to have a billion questions, but they have no clue. Meanwhile, somebody will be sent to go get the constables, the local sheriff, whoever the local law is, and some sort of D&D fantasy type investigation is going to happen, because the party has witnessed an NPC being murdered, and everybody inside the tavern is both a witness and, yes, a suspect. Oh, Scooby-Doo moment. So there's a couple examples of how to do psionics. Again, you roll whatever you need to roll at once. You anticipate that you're going to need to roll to speed things up. Keep track of stuff separately, which you may have to do. So like you should have by you in a folder behind your screen. Like it depends on what I'm doing. I usually have a screen because sometimes I want to do secret stuff and sometimes I want to roll the stuff out. Mostly I prefer to roll the stuff out where everybody sees it, but secret has some advantages as well. Plus, there's rather disconcerting to players if the DM's rolling dice, looking at them, and they know you're rolling dice and they know you're looking at it, but you're not saying anything. Like, oh, did we just miss that wandering monster, or is something coming? So think about it. You don't know how many hit points a lion has in real life. Should the party know how many hit points a lion has in Fantasyland? These are things to think about to decide how or do you care? If you don't care, then it doesn't matter. But it's things to think about or experiment with just in normal combat, let alone or normal situations that require dice rolls. And dice rolls aren't required for everything. Seriously, they are not required for everything. You do not need to be rolling dice to see if somebody successfully walked down a flight of stairs. Just assume they do, unless there's some reason that they wouldn't be able to, that there's some kind of difficulty challenge involved, for real. Like somebody poured oil on them, or the lights went out, and now they got to be careful. It's going to slow down their movement and all that stuff. Then, and don't make it like every step. You don't want to slow down the game, but you also don't want to lose the mechanics of the game or the random factors of the game. Also, suggested watching. Go back and watch all the old Star Wars. Look at all the times the Force was used, that it's invisible, but it's being used. Think about that. Think about what it would be like for a party to see the NPC. This is why NPCs going with the party are good, because you can knock them off first in some cases to increase the threat level. Because, let's face it, seeing somebody get lift off the floor while they're doing this by an invisible force would be scary. It should be scary to the player characters. They know somebody's been lifted off the floor by a mysterious force and is being choked. That is the proper frightening way to use psionics. They know that things are being thrown across the room. They just saw Clive, for instance. Remember Clive? Go flying across the room and get slammed into a wall. And he's crumpled into a little corner. And you had Clive roll a dice, and then you said, you're not moving, Clive. And Clive's like, am I dead? Am I alive? What? I said, nobody knows, Clive. Clive's unconscious. Or he could be dead. But someone's going to have to go over there and find out, and they don't know what attacked Clive. Watch Forbidden Planet. That's a good movie to see an example of psionics gone bad, and how it was portrayed in a cinematographic way, including that the technology could pick it up. The robot would know danger was coming, even though it was psionic energy. But nobody could see the danger. It was that sort of situation. So go watch that. Yes, it's sci-fi, not medieval, but you should be able to get some really cool ideas from it. That then look at your psionic abilities for whatever system that's being used, and think, can I recreate any of this? Do I need to add a new ability? And if I do, what's it going to do to my mechanics? The game balance. But have fun with it. Psionics is just another kind of magic. So if you can fire off magic missiles, fireball, there's like a ton of spells that unbalance games that people don't ban from their table. And like I said, you can always start out like with a really low powered version of something and see how it works. See if you guys like it or not in the game. See if you like it for a monster to have, etc. But yeah, they should be guessing. What did an artifact get used? Is somebody wearing some kind of invisibility cloak? Is it a monster's natural invisibility power? Did somebody cast some kind of spell? I mean, they should be clicking through the boxes. Was that a ghost? Some kind of undead invisible thing, they should be doing that. Now, if somebody in the party has psionics, or you think under the game's rules, depends on the version of the game you're playing, what rule mechanics you're using, if it's D&D or not, but if you think under a game's rules that somebody might get the spidey idea that it's, feel the psionic web, if you will, vibrate, go ahead and describe that to that player. All the hairs on the back of your neck just stood up. Something is happening. Something is happening, and you don't think it's magic, and you don't know what it is. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe this is a way that a character's latent psionic abilities start kicking in, is they get exposed to psionics being used. That's another thing we have to do is, how does your character get psionics? And what does the world setting feel about things like psionics and magic? Not all settings, even like a totally sci-fi one, is going to be cool with people having psionics. Babylon 5, the Psy-Core. They want them, but they don't. That's a good example. So those are things to think about, but you can roleplay psionics and make it exciting, make it terrifying. And I tried to, I just ran with my imagination on those, but the murder one, I'm basing that one kind of off of a psionic power, I think that's in 5e, and one of the this is how the psionics will happen. When you get to this level, you get this, and blah, blah, blah. All their micro builds that they have in 5e. I've got, someone gave me 4 ebooks, so I've got like a bunch of player manuals from that. And I'm just like, holy moly, really? You had to have so many of these player guides? Why? But seems to be how they are doing things now. And I don't know. I think having psionics being a separate power was probably the better plan, rather than making it like a total class thing. But Ardoon does a class, which we'll take a look at Ardoons, and eventually we'll get there. We'll get to like Gamma World and see what they do, and we'll just kind of cruise through the psionic mechanics I have in my house and see how it goes. Maybe there'll be something of interest if you want to do something more sci-fi versus more AD&D, whatever kind of game you're playing. Not quite sure what I have for GURPS. I don't know if I have anything psionic for GURPS. I'll have to look. But, yeah. So that's my thoughts on psionics. Role-playing it. Different angles you can take. Different ideas. There's no right way. You got to figure out what's going to work for you and your party. I'm trying to emphasize a balance with the mechanics in the role playing. In other words, I'm not getting rid of the mechanics, but I'm trying to avoid at this point in my life going, you take 3 hit points of damage. You take, even if people see that that's what the role is, I want it to try and make it a little less like that and more on the descriptive end. At this point, we'll see how I do. I'm waiting my turn to referee a game. Right now, I'm a player and I'm helping teach other players how to play old school, an old school inspired game. So I'm more of the unofficial mentor in the group. and I have to pretend not to know certain things at times. But yeah, I also am like, yeah, we need to buy some torches and stuff. We're going into caves. So, and we're all human except for one person, so we can't see in the dark. We need a way to make fire. Ropes might be good. Everyone's like, oh yeah, you're right. Survival equipment. So that's what I thought I want to put out there. Have a great day. Have fun role playing. Like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. Have a great day. Bye.